Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief. Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. I hope that you had an amazing weekend. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the Detroit and Milwaukee areas that came out to support myself and the causes that I was associated with. Shout out to El Hibri Foundation. Shout out to CARE National Office, and shout out to Sister Janan and the whole crew at the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. Came out to give a great round of support to all the comedians, Sister Sabine, Sister There Yakub, Musa the Comic, special guest Marlon Hill, and yours truly, Preacher Moss. Great show. I'm really excited to talk about this topic, and let me frame this for you. Also, before I do that, I want to give a shout out and sincere to watch for our people over in France, Portugal, the UK. They're dealing with a massive heat wave over there and massive wildfires. So we're praying for you guys to come through. It's supposed to hit record temperatures tomorrow in the UK. They're talking about the streets melting, putting salt on the streets so they don't melt. People who need to be staying inside, prayers to the elderly. The infrastructure of the UK is these old brick houses. You know, they don't do construction like siding, old brick houses that hold a lot of heat. So we're hoping that they pull through that. So let me get to the topic, because some people are going to say, why would you do this? Why do we need a Muhammad Ali stamp? I was browsing through Instagram, and she does not know this, but I was browsing through Instagram and I came across somewhat of a petition or call to action for Muhammad Ali to have a stamp. Now, the person who was making this effort, or leading this effort, or at least putting out there, was my dear sister, Miriam Ali, Meme Ali. Beautiful sister, fellow comedian, advocate. I mean, she's a social services warrior. And I was like, why are we even beginning to talk about this thing? Why do we have to have a petition? I felt in my heart of hearts that this thing just needed to be done. We are in a space right now where there literally are no heroes, that we are beginning to recycle our heroes and recycle narratives that are not there. What I mean by that is, the further and further we move down the road of life, whatever that journey is, in many regards, we actually lose firsthand accounts. We lose people that were in the room with the people who were the history makers and decision makers. We lose conversations of folks that help build our society, help frame laws, help frame freedom movements, social adjustment, ideology, spirituality. We are not talking to those people. We're talking to people that are 2, 3, sometimes 4 generations removed. We are left, brothers and sisters, to trust the narratives of people who, in many regards, were not there. That folks write these books about Muhammad Ali, but they weren't there. I read the earlier biographies about Muhammad Ali, and they were fascinating. But here's the thing. They talked to people who were there. The Bundini Browns, the Angelo Dundees, the Don King, the George Frazier's, the Joe Frazier's, the George Foreman's. All of these people who can talk to you about Muhammad Ali as a fighter, but also can talk to you about Muhammad Ali as a humanitarian, if I will. I'm trying to say superhuman, but I'm trying to say humanitarian. And I think it's worth that conversation that we have it today, that we reach out, and I'm going to help my sister, Meme Ali. I'm going to send her a telecast of this show. And I'm going to make, hopefully, an argument for why we should have a Muhammad Ali stamp. And I'm hoping that you guys will support me, and as well, you will join in with your comments for why you think there should be a Muhammad Ali stamp. We'll be right back here on the Shout Out Show. Don't move. Don't you move. Sorry about that, people. I had it on loop. Apologies. So, before we get started, of course, we have to get into our comment section. We have to welcome the stars in the building. The stars in the building. They are the Shout Out Show family, the Shout Out Show soldiers. You may recognize some of the names. You may recognize some of the phrases, but I'm here to tell you the authenticity, the support, the loyalty, and the general generosity of these people is something that comes through every show. So let me get right up front. We got Mary Moss, better known as Mama Son to me, my mom, saying a hefty hello to my SOS family. All right, Mom, glad you could jump on the show. She might be having a doctor's appointment there, so she just got on early. But thank you so much. Of course, I want to give a shout out to the illustrious Sister Ree. What's going on, Sister Ree? Hope you're doing well. Are you in Chicago now? Let me know. I did reach out to you. But in any event, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We pray that you and your family are doing well, and everything that you're going through, we pray that Allah gives you that mercy and that relief to know that the person that you there celebrate is a good person and in good hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Altaf Rashid, our Canadian envoy to the show, brothers and sisters. Appreciate you, brother. Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you for joining us. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, as always. Brother Eric, my main man. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, man. We missed you a couple of days, man, but thanks so much for jumping on with us. We appreciate you as always. Anytime we can have your presence on the platform, we are always happy. And we got this from a Facebook user. I liked it. I liked what they're saying. The pic of him in the pool will be a great stamp. That's a great story about him in the pool. And was that Time magazine? And he tricked them into thinking he had a new training technique, and he was in the pool. He was basically just treading water. I've seen that picture. I didn't use it on this one, but I've seen that picture. And here we go. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to my big brother Bilal Salahuddin and his queens. Sister Sonia, what's going on? How y'all doing? Are you surviving in the heat of Houston? I don't know. I guess we can say at least we're not the UK. I don't know if that even makes sense. But in any event, glad you guys are working out. You're on the same couch. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Okay. So let me preface this. I was joking about this. Like when Palestinian people see each other, they first recognize they're Palestinian. And the second thing they recognize is what village they're from to find out how close they are in proximity of one another. When you black in America, particularly around my age and higher, but particularly around my age, you have one or two stories. You always have a story about Martin Luther King, and you always have a story about Muhammad Ali. I was too young to really experience Martin Luther King, but boy, do I have a Muhammad Ali story. My best Muhammad Ali story is on the second march on Washington. My mother was a marshal, and I got to lock on to her, Bill Cosby, and Muhammad Ali. I believe he was there, and we marched on the Capitol. And I just remember this hysteria around people watching Muhammad Ali, this man, because at that age I didn't have a full impetus. I just knew he was a boxer, but you don't really get the full grasp of it until you get young and you get into your own journey and understand, wow, this guy was he was a major trailblazer for a lot of things that were going on in terms of religion. You know, through his boxing, he actually introduced the idea of Black theological thought, religiosity, not just from the Christian perspective, but also from this whole thing called Islam, which was really, really interesting. I didn't know what that was when I was younger, but it was interesting to see something that compelled somebody. It compelled somebody to say, I will stand in front of your rifles. I will walk in the fire. That was something, of course, that stuck in my mind as a young man. I'm like, well, this is something different about this guy. And it wasn't pacifism or anything like that. It was, I'm going to stand on what I believe. Quick Muhammad Ali story, because everybody has a Muhammad Ali story. I see my mother on here, my Aunt Maxine. She is the proprietor of BeFinancialIndependent.com. She actually worked in negotiation. Her and my mom, they worked in negotiation with Muhammad Ali for a cookie product called Champ Cookies. So see, I got three stories about Muhammad Ali. Champ Cookies, where he came and, you know, he came and supported the brand. He always supported Black businesses. You know, sometimes, you know, they need to support him a little bit more. But he supported not. Remember, Champ cookies were a great product. It's just don't know what happened. I think they were too new for what was going on a black cookie company because I think all you had was Famous Amos right then, and then this cookie company. But they were fabulous cookies nonetheless. My favorite Muhammad Ali story comes when I'm in California. Just moved there. Stand up was really rough. Trying to get on stages was really difficult. Definitely trying to get on the good stages. I couldn't even get on open mic stages. I had to go to the lower ones, just kind of work myself up. And I was feeling kind of down after I moved out there. I had a really traumatic issue. I totaled my SUV on the move out there. So, it's funny. You move out and you think you're going, and then in the middle of Colorado, you flip your car 3-4 times. And your life and life possessions are spread across Interstate 70. So it was an adjustment to get to Cali. The stand-up thing wasn't working out the way I wanted it to. And I had to put in work and open the paper. I saw Muhammad Ali's name and he was going to be appearing at autograph session, a memorabilia session. And I got in my car because of Muhammad Ali. See what I'm saying? I was down. I saw Muhammad Ali. I got up. I went to the Valley, Ventura Boulevard. I got there early. I met another brother who was Muslim. We talked. We prayed together. It turned out he was really good friends with Muhammad Ali. He would present these paintings to him. Long story short, he gets me an audience, Muhammad Ali, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I had to stand it for a minute because he did magic tricks. He was great at sleight of hand. And he was doing magic tricks for the kid. The brother introduced it. Brother Muhammad, this is a young Muslim brother. And he was like, giving the greeting. Assalamu alaikum. And I'm so engaged with Muhammad Ali, just the person, the person my dad talked about, my grandmother talked about, everybody talked about. He's right there in front of me. And I forget how to talk. I'm like, Muhammad Ali, I couldn't think of anything creative. Me, a comedian, I go, Muhammad Ali, and I just blurt out, you're the greatest. And he goes, I know. And I'm standing, he goes, give me $1. And I gave him $1. And he took the $1. He did a trick with it. He ripped it up several times and made it disappear. And I was like, that's amazing. But I was a teacher at the time. I was pretty broke. I needed that $1 because I had to pay for my, my parking meter. I was broke as a Ten Commandments people. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, you want your $1 back? I was like, that's my man. He smiled and he reached behind my ear and he gave me a quarter. And he whispered to me, he said, that's your $1 after taxes. That's my Muhammad Ali story. And I'm sure everybody has a Muhammad Ali story. But I didn't realize how important this guy was until last year I had to do the project. I was the narrator and the host for a podcast about Muhammad Ali called The Universal Title. And it focused on his spiritual journey to Islam. And, there's some things I didn't like about it. So there's some fights Sister Precious Muhammad was trying to have in there because it was not produced by Muslims. It was produced by, a Jewish gentleman. Not that it has anything to do with it, but there was some pushback about the content and how Muhammad Ali was being presented. And Sister Muhammad, Precious Muhammad, God bless her, she fought. She is a historian. She is a Harvard-trained historian. Okay, Dr. Precious Muhammad. And she put together an amazing script talking about Muhammad Ali from the time he was Christian to the time he went to Hajj. And it was all of these things. And I realized why Muhammad Ali needs a stamp. Because right now you have a movie in the theater, a piece of work called Elvis. And I said, why do we celebrate Elvis? And people celebrate Elvis because of his music, but we don't talk about Elvis in terms of his cultural appropriation of black music and black dance. If he didn't have those things, would he be Elvis? But when we talk about Muhammad Ali, we talk about a sense of purity. That there's no cultural appropriation, there's no spiritual appropriation, there's no political appropriation for Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, and all of the above, because he was a man that loved his people. He was a man that loved his people more than boxing, more than money. His religion extended beyond the aspects of religious dogma. He was a man in the street who lived his religion, whether it was beautiful, whether it had lumps on it, warts on it. He was a beautiful individual that sought the same beauty and education and opportunities for the people around him. He's legendary. What can I tell you about Muhammad Ali? We lay down and honor and covet deities who don't even, they can't carry Muhammad Ali's jock straps. We have people in the cult of Donald Trump. We have people that have religious cults. But you have a man who said, my station on earth is to work for my station in heaven. And that you can understand the purity of thought, because black folks didn't talk about that anymore. They didn't talk about that like that. In the 60s, we talked about loving Jesus and God, but it took a long time to point a finger and said, this oppressor is afraid of me expressing myself as a black man or a black woman. And as a young child, it was attractive to me. He was brash. He bragged. But here's the thing. He did it in front of white folks. He did it in front of white folks in a way it even made black folks uncomfortable. But black folks know how we brag and we do the dozens and we signify. This is a man that told you I wasn't the smartest in the classroom. I didn't make the most money. I wasn't rich. He said, but I was pretty. And we love that he said he was pretty because he was talking about black skin. And when he said he was pretty, he meant that all of us were pretty. The Muhammad Ali stamp is not Muhammad Ali's face on the stamp. It's all of our faces on the stamp. It's all of us talking about who we are as black individuals, to the point that it informs those who are not black and gives inspiration to those who are not black. When Muhammad Ali passed away, I was on a flight to Memphis. I looked on the television at the airport, and it said that he was ill. I got on my text. I sent a message to May, I'm praying for you and your father. I hope you are. By the time my flight landed in Memphis, it was late. It was delayed. It was a rainstorm, and he had passed. He had passed away. And when I came home, I'm going to tell you the compulsion to get on a flight after just coming home, to get on a flight to go to Louisville to take and put my hat over my head and celebrate this man was stronger than sleep. And we don't have people that inspire us anymore. I hear about how these people are brave and fearless. You ain't brave and fearless because you ain't willing to give it up. You ain't willing to risk it all. Dick Gregory, Muhammad Ali are the living representation of their times if they were willing to give it all up. In many regards, to die. MLK gave it up. Martin Luther King gave it up. Malcolm gave it up. Those are the physical pictures that we can attach ourselves to, but there are hundreds of thousands of people that gave it up just as well. They just weren't stars. And I think it's important that Muhammad Ali reminds us that as much as we focus on him, just like he would dodge a quick jab or overhand right, he would lean this way and that way so you could see the people behind him. Brother Eddie Mustafa, a legendary boxer, talked about being in New York, Muhammad Ali, and they had to go a half a block to go to Friday prayers. Eddie Mustafa said, let's take a limousine, let's take a cab. Muhammad said, no. Mr. Ali said, no, let's walk to Juma. Like brothers do, let's walk to Juma. And the funny part of the story, and I won't go too long, is just the fact that in that walk to Juma, they never made it. A half a block in New York drew out everybody in the area, and they gravitated to Muhammad Ali. See, we don't see that love of that person. See, we don't, the self-deprecation, the fact that he said, I'm the greatest, but when he was questioned, he said, I know I'm not the greatest. I said that to inspire other people to be great. The winning attitude is not so much about the look at me. Boxing was a throughway. It was a pathway. And all the fighters that he fought had one thing in common. that they really respected him, with the exception of Joe Frazier. And even in the end, Joe Frazier, though they fell out, in the end they came back together. Muhammad Ali apologized. He said, I understood. I went over the line trying to promote something. He said, and I broke one of my cardinal rules, was that I don't degradate another black man. I might talk about how you fight. I might talk about, but if I talk about you being dumb and do, he said, you know, and I'm calling you a gorilla. He said, I'm calling you out of your name. I'm calling you out of your natural human excellence. And as we move forward and we talk about a stamp, it's more than a stamp. It's more than a stamp for Muhammad Ali. It's a stamp of approval. It's a stamp that's a reminder. It's a stamp that takes us back to the fact that the man loved humanity. How many stamps can you watch and look at and go, how many of those people really love humanity? Because it's one thing to love humanity, it's one thing to risk everything for it. You see, Muhammad Ali, when he had his janazah, there were thousands of Muslims at his janazah. Thousands. And in the midst of everything that was going on with the Muslim community, still dealing with Islamophobia and bans, there was one person that could speak to a Donald Trump, and Donald Trump had nothing to say. There was one person that could speak to a Barack Obama, and Barack Obama just nodded his head because they knew their place. You see, one of the ways you know your place in history is you got to recognize history. You got to recognize that trailblazer. See, when you get in a room with people that don't know the history and they just see you doing something, they're going to crown you that. Mike Tyson, my beloved brother Mike Tyson, literally took to task Floyd Mayweather, who said he was the greatest fighter of all time. And Tyson said, you out of your mind. You're delusional. He said, I was the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. He said, I'm nothing compared to Muhammad Ali because he transcends so many things. And I know I'm supposed to go to commercial, but I got to talk. I got to talk today. Muhammad Ali transcends so many things. A stamp is not enough. We need a holiday. We need a Muhammad Ali holiday. You gave me Juneteenth, but Juneteenth, everybody ain't vibing on Juneteenth because everybody don't know about Juneteenth. More people know about Muhammad Ali around the world than they know about Juneteenth. And the thing that I always respected, listen to me, the thing I always respected about Muhammad Ali as a young man, as a young boy, was he made it. He made it in many regards, following, of course, a chain of transmission from Elijah Muhammad to Malcolm. But he made it fashionable for the black man to tell white supremacy, I know who you are. I know you're not better than me. I know I'm better than you. That despite all of this, you still can't stop me. He was heavyweight champion 3 times. And people say, oh, he suffered. He suffered in the sport that he loved. But he didn't suffer in the sport to the point where it affected the people he loved. That Muhammad Ali in his later days was revered around the world. Do you know what it is to go to a funeral of a person that met somebody one time? There was a guy, I think he was from Pakistan or Sri Lanka. He met Muhammad Ali one time. And when Muhammad Ali passed away, this guy figured out a way to get from Sri Lanka to Louisville, Kentucky to pay his respects. Heads of state were there. The premier of Turkey, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Honorable Mrs. Louis Farrakhan. All kinds of debates, Sugar Ray Leonard. Mike Tyson at this janazah had to be consoled because he felt the sincere loss of an angel. Have we ever put an angel on a stamp? No. Have we ever looked at the possibility that we stared at greatness, that held a mirror up and said, you can be great too, and put it on the stamp? I don't think so. Yeah, we celebrate music, we celebrate sports. Oh, this person is smarter. This person has all this money. This understanding guy understands that. Muhammad Ali, brothers and sisters, he didn't have an Instagram page. He wasn't on Facebook. Definitely wasn't on Twitter. Definitely didn't do TikTok. Was one of the most recognized people, one of the most photographed people in the world. In the world. If you go right now and put Muhammad, you will get Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon, right underneath it in the search box, doggone, you're going to get Muhammad Ali. And this is a man that framed so much for the black Muslim, for the black man. And when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, as janaza, I literally listened to Muslims in the quandary of who will lead us. Who is the Muslim that these people will listen to? And we laid him here, just laid him to rest. We said, there are no Muhammad Ali's coming, brothers and sisters. Just like the joke I said, Donald Trump reminds you that there are no more prophets coming. There's no more Muhammad Ali's coming. That's the closest you're going to get to somebody that loves humanity because he's supposed to love humanity. Who's God conscious because he realizes the work that's here is a heavenly directive. And if we begin to understand and move around and get away from our hangups and all this stuff, this hero worship and stuff like that, you understand Muhammad Ali was a man. He was a man among men. One of the great conversations with Mr. Dick Gregory, may Allah be pleased with him, when he talked about Muhammad Ali and their relationship. And he told me about also the relationship that he had with Malcolm X and how that dynamic. Can you imagine if those two weren't pulled apart, what the world would be? If they weren't severed by this foolishness, and Muhammad Ali pined for his brother, Malcolm X. You can read it in Blood Brothers. Can you imagine the power and the virility of what the black community could have been in the 60s, in the 70s, and moving forward? So the question is, why we need a Muhammad Ali stamp? And I'm going to tell you why. Because that's the closest we're going to get to Muhammad Ali. The stamp is the closest you're going to get to Muhammad Ali for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have the stories of, Muhammad Ali pulling a quarter from behind your ear, or champ cookies, or showing up to show a boxing lesson, or coming through the poor parts of Cleveland, or trying to rescue somebody that's trying to kill themselves, or going over to Iraq to get hostages released from Saddam Hussein. You're not going to have that anymore. We are ordinary mortals. We were in the presence of a Superman. And the thing that made him super was he was a human and he was relatable, and we could touch him and we could talk to him. And you could see Muhammad Ali walking down the street with no bodyguard. And you could see Muhammad Ali give out money. I interviewed his daughter. I should have put it up here. And she talked about her father having thousands of dollars in her pocket at the beginning of the day. And by the end, he had nothing in his pocket. He had rabbit ears because he gave it all away. Because he was so concerned with the human condition. That, my brothers and sisters, is why we need a Muhammad Ali stamp. All right, let's go to the roundup. I'm going to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's www.BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. You guys know the number. That's 202-508-3780. Again, that's 202-508-3780. I'm going to give a shout out to Us Hub TV. They're going to be producing a comedy special August the 11th in Washington, D.C. at the Miracle Theater in Southeast Washington, the gentrified part of Southeast Washington. Make sure you get your tickets and come on out. Yours truly will be hosting the closing. I don't know. It's all in negotiation. Shout out to Band Islamic Graduate School. Go to bandonline.org, and it's bandonline.org. And I give a shout out, of course, to Convenient urgent care. Again, that's convenient urgent care. 3 locations in the Houston area, Parker Road, Cypress, and Pasadena. Listen, I didn't play the Don't Get the COVID video, but I was just flying in today, and I'm gonna tell you guys something. The lackadaisical attitude of people in the airport, on the planes, not having to wear masks. We are setting ourselves up for something that is extremely serious, brothers and sisters. I think that they have seriously underestimated this BA5, because I think there's something coming behind it. Shout out to Anthony Fauci, who will be retiring from NIH because he's tired of, I guess, he just want to live his life. So shout out. So listen, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have been amazing. Take care of yourself. Inshallah, I will see you tomorrow. Remember, let's talk about why we need a Muhammad Ali stamp. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi